Right, welcome to the channel once more. As we ended last time, we were able to create our database, which is dating up, and then we were able to also create our table, user registration. And this is the table that you created the last time. Then we have ID, name, date of birth, gender, country, city, interest, email, password, username, and the date joined. So this database has been created. What that we need is to get the information from this end of our website and process it into our database. That's exactly what we are going to do now. So the next thing you do is to open your Visual Studio Code and you start. Now, our sign up form contains a button called user register. Okay, input type submit, name is equal to what? Register, add a register class, and so and so and so. Then you have what? Sign up. So once you click on this sign up, okay, information will be sent onto the page. Let's go to the head of the form. Our form method is what? Post. So method as which we are going to use to send our form data is what? Post. Our form will accept form data. Okay, and this return check field, I'm going to delete this section. Okay, you will come back to it later. We don't need this at the moment. So let me remove this event from there. Okay, once everything is in order, then you can go back. Action is equal to null because you want the form to be processed on the index page. You can put the index.php here, but it doesn't change anything. So I normally leave it blank here so that our form can be processed on the index form, index PHP file. Now, this is all that this one is saying. It said, if it's said, let's assume that our post data, our post for what do you call it, function contains a data. If the post data contains a field called a register, then we proceed and extract some important information. The first one is username, the name, the first name. So you are going to extract all this information from our table. Sorry, from our form field, the sign up form. So you have the name, the first name, the last name, the email address, username. So these are the information that we are collecting them in over here. So as long as these informations are found within the register command, so the register field, then we are going to extract them because this is what post is an array function. Okay, it's an array function. So we can extract our username, our first name, our last name, the password, the confirmed password, the day, the month, the year, date of birth. Then through that we can get our date of birth. So let me drop down here and add comment, getting the date of birth. Anything is necessary. I just want to make sure this is separated from the rest. Okay, then we have the interest, we have a gender, the email, the created date. This one is what generated internally. So okay, then we are going to attribute this data into something called, we are going to make sure this data sent here does not contain what error. If for some reason some of this field contains an empty field, then we put the field into an error message. Okay, then you put the field into an error message. So you say error message is equal to an empty array. There's no data in this array. Then you call for the for loop. We check the field, to check from field. check form for empty fields. Okay, that if for some reason the user intentionally left some of the data blank or he forgot to put something there, then our for loop on the post command will tell us that there was an error or some field was empty. And if a field is empty, then call the error message and then indicate which field is empty. Then from there it will help us to be able to check which field is empty. All right. Now that you are done, then we can call the error message that indicates here. There is no empty field. So if there is no empty field, then continue to process the data. So if there is no empty field, they're going to continue to process the data. All right. Then that conditional statement will come. If empty error messages, then we move on to process our data. Now we introduce a new concept here called classes, because what we're going to do now will require that first we have to make sure this user has not been signed up already. If the user has signed up already with us, then there is no need for us to add another details of this person into our database. We have to call onto our database, access the user registration table to find out if this user has an account with us or not. In so doing, we need to connect to MySQL database in our PHP tables. So for us to do that, then we will need a function to do that. And because you may be using more of MySQL function, MySQL connections or access controls in this particular site, I will advise us to go straight and create a class to handle that for us. So here, put a cursor here, then add new folder. I want to add folder, not a file. So let's add a new folder. And name the folder as classes. Then within this folder, let's open it and add new file. And let's name the file MySQL underscore query. Something like that. You can name it anything that you want. Let's rename this. Supposed to be a PHP file. Okay. Alright, so this is quite okay now. Then we will open our PHP tag as we do all the time. Open and close it, and then we step some is to call the class the creator. So class, then the class that we are going to name is MySQL underscore connector. Okay, this is the class, this is the name of our class, and I'll prefer this to be capital. Then I prefer this to be let's be a combined word, MySQL connector. Then so that's how we construct a class in PHP. We enter the name, the class identifier, then we enter the name of the class, and then within this class there could be properties which are either protected, public, or private. But the key thing that you do in any PHP class is the class constructor, and not just PHP, most programming languages. So we define our public constructor. So public function underscore underscore. That's how we define the constructor. Double underscore. Then we have what? Construct. Okay. Then here we are going to indicate the host name, the username to access our database, then password to access the database, and then the database is safe. Okay. And then you open up bracket, and then you call. Now this has to what? Be connected to a variable, class variable that has what defined within this class scope. So in order to do that, the class is supposed to get what? A property. The first one you're going to do is private, or if you want another class to inherit our properties, then we can call what? Protected. Then you can call for the username, user. Okay. Then protected password, protected host name, or let's say host, then protected DB. Okay, once these have been what? Defined, then we can go to our class constructor and then assign this to the variables that are being given to us. What to do that? This mapping to username, user is equal to what? Username. This mapping to password be equal to password. This mapping to database is equal to DB. And then this mapping to host, underscore host is equal to host name. Then you have to do the correction over here. Underscore DB is equal to that. Now that you have assigned our various variables into the variables within our class, we can access them anywhere we need to do that. Now the next function we're going to create is what? Public function create connection, or public function connect, and then we close that. So within this function, we are going to define another private or protected variable called link. And then construct create a public constructor. And then match variables to the private protected variables. In this function, public function creating SQLi connections. So now that you have all this established, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to call out one MySQL function that will help us to keep connection to what? MySQL database. And that function will return a link to what? The database. So you have to get this link and store it in a variable that you can call upon it later on for later use. So you said hash this underscore link is equal to MySQLi underscore connect. Okay, then this will accept 4 variables. The first one is the name of the server. Here is what? This dash what? The host underscore host name, and then the username to this database, and then the password to this server, then the database you want to what? Be connected to daily. Okay, or die MySQL underscore. What have you done over here? You reach this level. What you're doing next is to verify if the link has really been established, if the details provided to connect to MySQL database was correct, and then a link has been established between the database and the code here. What you do is that you go for if conditional statement hash this hash link. If this link equal true, hash this. If the link is empty, if the link is false, if no link has been established, then we are going to throw a new exception here. Then we say that the error message should be invalid, or we can call for invalid what? MySQL login parameters. A little spicy, be okay. Now that I've created our connection class, I want us to create another function. The function of this particular method is to accept MySQL query statement, send it to MySQL server, and then let it perform the execution and give us what? The results. So what you're going to do with this method is that accept SQL query statement. So public function execute SQL command. It should be SQL. Right. Then we can say that if the set hash SQL and it's not empty, it's a conditional statement. Okay, making sure making sure the SQL parameter is set, or parameter contains there. Then we come to our our conditional statement. If it actually contains data, then query is equal to SQL underscore query link. We call for the link and then the SQL provided command, or we call the process and return what? SQL what? Error. Let's accept parameter of what? Link. Then we close that. If it does not contain the else statement, we throw new what? Exception. Then we call the method name execute SQL command fails. Check your SQL. Check your SQL language or statement. As simple as that. But that is not all. We need to get a function to return the query. Now, before you can do that, we need a a property to store these results. So we come back to this end. Then you create protected property. Then you call for execute SQL, or let's make it spicy. Results of executed SQL command, something like this. Then in our function or method, we can return that, or we can assign that to our property. So we can call this, but before you do that, you have to make sure it actually contains what? Results. So you call for the conditional statement if the MySQL query returns true on success and false on failure. So if the query is equal to true, okay, then we can assign our results to executed SQL command, or let's look up results of what. Let me just copy this and bring it here. SQL command is equal to hash what into the query because it contains results from the executed what SQL command. If the query is false, then we throw new exception. And let me bring this statement to that bracket and find a new statement for that. And then this exception should be for that of the empty field. Yes. So I can say invalid SQL statement provided or empty field. So invalid SQL statement or empty field provided, something like that. Okay, and this should be okay with that. So now you have to find a way to return this statement, to return this results. Okay, and another way to also return the link that we created over here. So most of the functions that you have been dealing with are called setter functions. These functions are set to produce what data. Then we are going to create another methods or functions that will return what results, and that is what in some languages they call them setters and what getters. So we are going to create our getter function or methods. So the first one that we want to do, and then the getter functions should resemble what their setter what functions. So I want us to return what the link. So the first one I'm going to do the public function get link. Okay, and this does not contain any. What have to do that return what this return the link. Yes, and we are done for the setter getter functions. Then we have another function which is what execute SQL what command. So the getter method is going to be public function get executed SQL command. I mean yes command, and this should return this. Yes, that's good. Results of, let me see if I can paste it or not. So let me go to the top here. Let's go and copy the entire property and return them in the getter function. And that is all that we need at this moment. So now you have our setter functions execute command and our getter functions get executed what SQL what command. You have our setter functions connect, then you have what get what link. That's what you want. You want to return this link that we've created over here. So you go back to our index field and then you use our method that our class that we just created. So this brings us to another important section in PHP programming called constant. So we are going to create a new file. Okay, then name it as db credentials within the include files. Within these files, we are going to store our constant that you could use them across the entire page. So you go to or the entire site, the new file, then let's name this file as what db credentials or credentials.include.php. Okay, So within our DB credential file, then we are going to define our constants. The first one that you do is bring a defined function, and then this accepts a name, then the value for which it represents. So you are going to use capital letters for them. That's a user. Sorry, but before you do, let's open our PHP, close, then close it. And once we are done, then we can start defining our constant. Username, or let's say user, and then the value is going to be root in small letters. Then define our server or host, our server, and then the value should be what? Localhost. Then we defined our password. The value, I think I'm using later 2000. Then we defined constant for our database. So DB or database, and then the value is dating, and the value is, let's check it, dating app DB. Oh yes, dating app DB. So you can go back, say dating app DB. These are the constants that we need at the moment. These are the constants that you need at the moment. Fine. This is getting interesting. And then now that we have defined our constant and we have our first PHP class defined, we are going to bring them into our code. We are going to bring these PHP classes and our constant into our code by calling for a function called include or require. For the class, I'm going to go for require. There are require underscore ones, and then there's require. I'm going to take the require. That's what I'll be using. I don't have any issue with them. Any functions can be used for this. Then we linked, or you go close to, you bring in the link at which our class is what located, and then our class is located at where? Classes mysql underscore query.php. So we go in for the index, then we go for what? Classes slash mysql underscore query.php, and that is all. We have what? Linked our classes into our index PHP file. So link external resources. Then you can also include our DB credentials, and this can be found at what? The include files. You have DB credentials dot include .php. This is how you add include files. Okay, this is how you add include files in PHP. So this, both DB credentials and MySQL are now linked in our index PHP file, so we can access their content and use it to process our data. So here we are going to perform some magic here. Oh, I love this. So now that these things have been created and linked into our files, it said if there is no empty field, then continue to process the data. Now, we are assuming that the user has entered all the details from the sign up page here, and he did not leave any blank space. He has filled them all, and we are going to create create accounts for the person. But it could happen that this person has already created accounts on the site. So the first thing you have to do is to check if the person has no account on the website. And this can be done only if you make a good access to what our database and check if there are no records of that person in the database. What you do here is to go back to our code, and then we make connection to our database. And then after that, we compared the username that we have to any existing username in our data. If the result is empty, it means the user has no data in our table. So you have to create the accounts for the person. If the result is not empty, it means the user already has an account in our user registration table. So there is no need for us to create another account for such a person. You can either ask the person whether he has forgotten the password for something, and then we can assist them to get access back into the account. So without making much noise, let's go straight to the point. So our first thing we do is to make a query to what? Our database to find out. But before you do that, you also have to make sure you have created an instance of the MySQL class that we created. So first, we are going to bring try to what? Enclosed, then catch statement. These two statements are very crucial in order to define a class, so that if there is a crash, the whole thing will take control of this and it will not affect the entire page in a way. In so doing, you will have total control about the error message that is generated. Either you want to output them or you want to control it or hide it from the user. Okay, so you bring in the try and catch statement so that you have total control on the error that might be generated. So you define our try. The catch should have an exception within it, and that is where we can have total control, either to output the error or to let it be. Because it's a development site, I will say let output what? The error. As such. Okay, so this try around our class declaration will be very important in order for us to get total control from the error that might be generated during the execution of that. So the first thing we do is to create an instance of the name of our class, MySQL connector. The MySQL connector. Okay, so this is how you do it. Hash connector SQL connector is equal to new MyX. Yes. This function has set 4 parameters. Those have been provided by us. Server. Then we have the user, have the password. Then we have a database, and that is it. We have created an instance of the MySQL class. So let's confirm our details. We have the password, database, you have server, then you have what? User. That's good. Now, what you do is to call the function for executing my SQL command. So this is how you call that. So now that you have an instance of a class, you can call in my SQL connector hash execute. Look for the name, our method name over here, and that is what connect. The first thing you do is to what? Create a connection. Then you call for the execute my SQL command. Let me just copy it. So you go back to a function that connects. Next does not take any parameter. Then my SQL connector.execute, then you put in that. But this accept an SQL statement. All right, let's accept an SQL statement. So before we can use this method, we have to define this statement. So let me get back one step above and define the MySQL statement. So get state the MySQL or assign the MySQL statement. Therefore, I can say that because you want to verify, I can say that hash SQL statement is equal to, and we write our statement for selecting results. Then we write our statement for selecting results. So we said select hash from user registration. Then let's see, go for the name of our table, user registration underscore what table. So you go back to our code, registration underscore table, then where username. So let's show you something. Okay, we have what is username. Here is it, where username, and this field, okay, because it's a unique field. It's a unique field where username is equal to hash user. Let's see how this was represented. Username, okay, hash username is equal to that. And this should be put within this sign. All right. Is equal to the username. It's a unique field so that when you send or when you base our command on it, it's going to be able to select only that field where you have what the username matching that. And once this return a result, okay, if this function return a result, it means that there is already a user with the name, with the provided what username. So we don't have to create an account for the person again. We just have to get the details of that account for the person. Confirm if that account really belongs to him or her. Then we grant him or her an access to the account. So once it is done, then we execute our command. This should be returned what? Without any errors, get us a good data that we can work on. Now that we have that, then we can call in for, let's say, results from command be equal to hash MySQL connector dot get executed SQL command, and this does not accept what any parameter. So this is what we are calling. You know, after setting the data in this function, then we call the getter function to get the results from that particular function. It's as simple as that. And once we have our results, then we can work on that. So for us to test and see what we have done so far, we can say that print, can call the print function on the results and see what the answer will be. So let's go to our code. There is something I want us to address here. It said for each hash error message as hash value equal hash value. Okay, I don't want this to be done at this point in this area. So what I want to do is that I want to leave that alone. Let me just select the for each command. Else nothing should happen. You will come back to that later. I just want us to have that so that it doesn't push. It will allow us to have it over here. Oh, let me put it somewhere within the body. So this is just the nav field. This is a container. Then this is the main. So let me put it somewhere here. I can say that if it's set, let me define our PHP clause here. Then close it. I can say that if the set hash error messages, then I can call the for each loop on it and echo its value here. So that when I come back to the page, then I reload list, then li okay, and then let me close it like this. This is called, you are concatenating the string here. Okay, you are draining HTML clauses with what PHP values in order to have a very nice output. So let's see how the results will be. Let's go back and run our code again. Okay, let me do that. Okay, so please make sure this field is not empty. Please make sure this field is not empty. But it is displeasing our content, and that is what I don't like. So let's go back and fix it. Then I said margin dash top should be, let's say 120 pixels, and see what the outcome of that will be. So if I go back, then reload patch, and I said stand up, yes. Okay, so this is our current output is not good, but at least we are getting to see all the required information that you know. We will work on them and make the site appears good over time. And this is what I wanted us to know. As long as these areas are not set, our code here will never run, because it says that if empty error messages, then they should go on. As long as the error messages are not empty, our code in this area will never run. So what you have to do is to reload our page and then make sure every field here is set. First one is what? Our first name, Duncan William. Duncan William @gmail.com. Daniela, let's say something like that. 2024. And birth date, let's say 19th month of February. Let's say 2005. Then let's say Ghana, then Accra, like that. Then you are looking for, let's say, female, 2000, 2000. Then let's sign up. All right, this is good. Not now. Said undefined property MySQL connector has host name online 27. Undefined variable hash user in C online 47. So these are the error messages that we are getting, because now this session of our code is what? Running. This session of our code is running. And when it runs, it's giving us that there are what? An error. There's a problem on this line 27 in MySQL_query.php, which means that this session of our code is also working, because this has what been included here, and that it is running, and that there is what? An error over there. So let's go to line 27 and see what the error is. It said undefined property MySQL connector hash host name. That's undefined property. So let's see which property. Yes, so the host here is not supposed to be hosting, but rather what? A host. Because the property that we define is what? Host, and not what? Host name. Okay, that is good. And then there is another one error here. It said undefined variable user in creating up index.php on line 47. So you come to line 47. Line 47. Or is it? Not here, index. Then line 47. This is undefined. This is undefined. Hash user is undefined because you have what? Username, not user. So you have to bring what? Name in addition to that. So once these errors are fixed, let's run our code and see what results that you get. Yes, resend. Okay, and so there's a problem here. It's supposed to be what? A link at this point. So let us go back into our code and see if you find the problem over there. So you go to this line where we define our function, our class. All right. So I want us to tweak this thing a bit and see if that error message was still there. Let's say, let's make just any variable to represent our link. So link is equal to the connector. Then let's test for the availability of what? The link. If the link is equal to true, okay, if the link is set, if hash link equal true, okay, if there's a link that has been established, then let's then bring the st somewhere here. Okay, so if there is a link that has been established, then let's link that one to our private property. Okay, our protected property link should be equal to what? Hash link. Let's do it this way and see if you will have that error resolved. Okay, so initially the conditional statement, the else session was calling. Meanwhile, the whole thing has not been run. Let's run that first and check if the link has been created. And then we link that to our variable what link, the protected property to our variable what link. Okay, if the link has not been created, then throw this what exception. So okay, after that let's save it and go back to our site, reload and see the end results. Yes, it means that this has been what saved. It means this has been, sorry, the error has been what cleared. So let's go back to our code and hide the parameter at the top there. Let's go to the index and hide the navigational bar and see what that result was actually giving us. Yes, you see, this is the MySQL field returns, the results that was returned from what the MySQL command. This shows that there is no field that pertains to our current SQL statement. Selecting yes from the registration table where user was equal to hash them. The results that you got was what an empty what row, number of rows what 0, which means that there is no results or there is no user with a given username. But this means we can go ahead and what create the user records in the database. Let's bring us to the end of the tutorial. We'll continue on in the next session.